chaos get fired. Hello and welcome back, everybody, to round 5 of the first weekly of season 3 of the Eternal Tournament series. Man, that is a lot to say. We are about to jump into the first game of round 5 with RedWorld on his Combri Blue, I believe was the exact name of the deck, versus VSarius on a very interesting take on Armory.
Yeah, we've definitely got a more sort of. This was the path that J-Knight was going down, where there's a lot more actual units in the deck. VSarius is playing stuff like Crownwatch Paladin, a Champion of Chaos, and Statuary Maiden, in addition to the Recount Artisan plus weapons package. So we're going to see a whole bunch of interesting cards out of here that you maybe might not expect out of a regular Armory deck.
Ooh, and this is actually looking like a very good start for VSarius, hitting all of his power requirements right out of the gate, and RedWorld with a bit of a slow start, though he does pick up the Seraph, which changes that a little bit. Definitely much better for him now. But
yeah, but VSarius doesn't have any of the early game snowballing techniques that Armory really likes to have, like that early Artisan, the Inspires, and what have you. So he's going to be playing out more like a how would you say it? Like a fair mid-range deck.
Yeah, exactly. He's gonna be a little more fair, and it's a little bit slower. Although if RedWorld's hand continues to be slow, I think VSarius is actually going to be able to take over this game pretty quickly. He should be able to clear the Seraph up in about a turn, and this Sandstorm Titan could be going down next turn as well with the Vanquish. So
yeah, it looks like VSarius is trying to get value out of his Statuary Maidens here. The Desert Marshal is going to finish off going to silence the first one, but he doesn't really have an answer for the second one, which could easily combine with Torch to get him a quick guy, but chooses not to do that.
Yeah, RedWorld very wisely opting not to go ahead and block there with the Seraph and not offer like the double block, try and clear the unit off. Doesn't want to get eaten by Torch, knowing it's hanging out in VSarius' hand with those end of turn waiting time. So VSarius just trying to get in, start chipping out this early damage here, and RedWorld off to a very slow start now that he's hitting all this power, and yet another power picked up for him. So the Seraph goes online next turn if VSarius can't answer it, but unfortunately that's going to get swept up here with the Sword of Ikaria Torch on those. I have to imagine he's going to go ahead and take care of that. And that is going to leave RedWorld in a very interesting situation where he does not actually have any interaction with this board. And VSarius has mounted a very scary board on the other side. 2 Statuary Maidens, 1 silenced, albeit, and a Champion of Chaos online with the Overwhelm. Picks up a Cudgel as well. So this is going to be very difficult for RedWorld.
RedWorld just sort of flooded out pretty hard and isn't really able to mount any kind of conceivable effective defense here.
Yeah, interesting he decides actually to get in there with the Desert Marshal. I figure at some point you probably need to start preserving your life total, but that might also be him realizing that he's a little too far behind to just make chump blocks here. And we will see another 4 go through. RedWorld sitting at 9. VSarius at a healthy 18 now that Throne Warden came down and gave him some armor.
Well, with the Statuary Maiden out there, the jump blocks aren't really ideal, as you always end up giving your opponent more resources to work with in the form of that Cudgel.
Yeah, this is very true. Interesting note, you can't equip other players' units.
No.
Okay.
Weapons are exclusively on your units.
Okay. Just a quick consideration. I know many a time I have done the old finest hour to vanquish their Seraph trick when I really need it off the board in a pinch, but I've never actually tried to just put a weapon on an enemy unit. Never really had the situation arise. Would have been useful there, though, but VSarius not too worried about it now, has 2 Cudgels, and he's got a Vanquish for the Seraph unit here, so... Ooh, Roland would have been not a terrible pickup, but it's not going to matter anyway. The board's still, like, RedWorld knows he's dead to the go wide strategy here.
Mm-hmm.
And would have gotten
going to
have to... Yeah, going to have to concede that game and go to sideboarding. let's see what he has in his plan, though. So RedWorld already seen him once today overcome on stream, overcome the difficulties. Backlash, Vanquish, some Combri healers. Decay is obviously coming in here. Should see some decays. Maybe some things like Scorpion Wasp. Probably his other Valkyrie Enforcer to go ahead and put some silence down on the armory deck.
Yeah, silence is going to be pretty effective against all the various statuary maidens and champions of chaos and things. So that's probably a good starting strategy. I imagine the other Vanquish will come in. Some of the decays. It'll be interesting to see whether he goes for his gift plan or if that's exclusively for some of the harder control decks. As the Fire Justice Shadow deck does have the Smuggler's Stash to rebuy all of its cards and get card advantage that way.
Yeah, that is interesting. You may be correct then in wanting to play Azendal's gift as sort of hate for the Smuggler's Stash specifically, but if you're not hating on that, I'm not a huge fan of bringing it into this matchup just because by turn 7 the Armory deck has gotten a decent number of its cards down, especially with this variant where we see a lot more units in the deck. Recano Artisans, Crown Watch Paladins, the Champion of Chaos, Statuary Maidens, Throne Wardens. So a lot more units than you would typically see in a armory deck.
So one thing that I do want to talk about, flipping over to the other sideboarding deck, VSarius, he's not playing any copies of Harsh Rule in the main deck, which to some players seems insane, but this is a very unit-focused, board-focused version of the deck. So since you've got so many of your own units, Harsh Rule has a lot of issues of killing your own guys. And you're really working on those deadly units plus removal to work your way through the opponent. So all of his Harsh Rules are in the sideboard.
Yeah, that is interesting. I have to imagine Well, it's interesting to say that they'll come out in this matchup because it is easy for Combri to get such a big board and go wide. But by the same token, Armory does have a lot of direct ways to deal with a lot of the threats Combri has. And at the same time, like you were mentioning, generally kind of wants to protect its own board with this unit-heavy strategy. Getting the Champions of Chaos down and Statue Remains, and then having to sweep them up with your own Harsh Rule doesn't generally feel very good.
Yeah, so it may not make a lot of sense in a more traditional armory list, but here it makes a lot of sense that he's playing a more board-focused, unit-heavy plan, and he keeps his mass removal in the sideboard for when he has to board those out. So it looks like we're moving down to game 2. RedWorld is down in the first game to VSarius, so we'll have to see if he can bounce back.
Yeah, we will have to indeed. And a pretty good start out of RedWorld. See the Decay, Valkyrie Enforcer, Great Parliament, and Martial Ironthorn with 3 power to back it up, and the 2 seats to get both of his influence requirements online. So it looks like he's going to be good. We'll probably need some primal at some point to play some of his cards. VSarius on the other side of the table also looking not bad. He's got the Recano Artisan and he's got a Rise to the Challenge to hopefully fish up a threat to help him deal with whatever cards we're going to see RedWorld play here.
Yep, Seek Power means he'll have that Shadow Influence when he needs it. But RedWorld with a bit of a slow start, no plays up to turn 3. Gives VSarius the opportunity to take the initiative.
Very true. I think something interesting to note here is that this Rise to the Challenge out of VSarius is going to be very important. It'll really depend on what he goes and fishes that will determine how this game kind of plays out from here. Because if he goes for a big weapon, try and get in some sort of weapon-based attacking or cleanup, that will actually punish him because RedWorld's holding this Decay and has been holding it the whole game. So in this case, it actually will probably be better for VSarius to go ahead and fish up a unit.
Yeah.
Yeah, we see Desert Marshal coming down there and silencing the Recano Artisan for basically no effect, but more importantly, trading off the Crown Watch Paladin. Just trying to slow down VSarius's game plan. Not that he's on a very fast clock anyway, but keeping those minions off the board and the war cries, more importantly, from stacking is a big deal to RedWorld.
Interesting that he declines to go for the Rise of Challenge. Usually Well, in some cases, you want to go get, a 5-drop or a 6-drop or prepare your end game plan. So it really depends on what you're looking for. Here, it looks like VSarius is playing in a little bit closer to the chest with a bit more of a reactive game plan. And he does draw that Stone Scar Maul, which will be able to take out the owl here. And because of RedWorld's only having 2 power available, he won't be able to decay it and save his owl. He can do it next turn, but it's already got value at that point.
Yeah, he'll probably second decay pickup. That actually, I was gonna say this is gonna be pretty important that RedWorld has to waste his decay right here on the weapon, but with the second decay pickup, not nearly as much because the rise isn't going to. The second rise is not going to scare RedWorld like it would if he had not picked up the second decay there.
So now for Sarius, it becomes a question of what do you want to play around? You're going to rise for something. It's just what do you want? Stone Scar Maul's the best against something like a Desert Marshal or a Scorpion Wasp. Icaria is good against Decay, which we know RedWorld has, but very bad against a Scorpion Wasp if he happens to have one.
Yeah, bad against Scorpion Wasp. Also, not great if he had a pair of Valkyrie Enforcers, but other than that, I mean, Icaria is basically the threat. Oh, Sandstorm Titan. Sorry, that was the other card I was trying
Sandstorm
to think.
Titan is yes,
a bit problematic, although not terribly so, with the Icaria being buffed up to a 7/5 instead of a base 5/5, able to at least trade with Titan. And speaking of the Devil, we do see Sandstorm Titan picked up. So that's going to go ahead and lock this Icaria to the ground. But at the same time, if VSarius doesn't hit a unit here off the top, he will be able to go ahead and swing with the Icaria again, trade the Icaria for the Sandstorm Titan, and he will have 10 Warcries. He can even rise to go specifically get whatever was Warcried 10 times.
Well, if VSarius just rises for an Auric Runehammer, which he doesn't, he could have taken out the Sandstorm Titan, unlocked his Icaria, and attacked for lethal.
Yeah, actually, that's very true. It wouldn't have worked out for him.
He only has 2 power. RedWorld only had 2 power available.
Oh, yeah, you are correct.
Barring specifically Desert Marshal, here VSarius looks like he's taking his time with this. He's got the Smuggler's Stash to get back the Icaria. He's got a lot of value built up, and
yeah, and I think this is going to be the end of RedWorld here. He's going to need to pick up something immediately. He's going to have to play the Flyer down this turn for sure, just to make sure that the Icaria can be blocked, but not a super attractive play.
I guess there was the possibility that all of the low-cost weapons had been sided out of his deck. If he didn't have any Auric Runehammers or Sword of Icarias, he wouldn't have been able to make that play. But now he's he sort of put himself on the back foot a bit.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that play. If you were willing to go for the Icaria a few turns ago, I really felt like you should have just pushed the Icaria again. But I guess when he picked up the Champion of Chaos, he liked the way he could weave the two together a little bit better, since he had just enough power to get the Maul and the Champion down. So guessing that's what went into his decision making. But 14/14 Champion with Overwhelm is going to be very scary. We see RedWorld now picking up the Scorpion Wasp. That'll actually punish the Icaria a little bit, to make it difficult for him. Interesting that what is...
Without a Silencer of Vanquish, though, RedWorld will die to this champion. So we need to see Desert Marshal.
Yeah, and we don't see it. So yeah, he is going to die there. I'm curious out of VSarius. Obviously, he's just playing it safe, but what were you scared of trading the Mystic Ascendant there? What scares you with a 14/14 Ascendant?
Predatory Carnosaur could potentially be coming out. It goes down to 6 health. I don't believe that RedWorld plays that card.
Okay. Yeah, so I was just curious as to what he was like protecting himself against, essentially. But that was actually a very quick series, all things considered, out of an Armory matchup. Armory getting it 2-0 right off the bat. Very well played by VSarius there. Interesting build of his deck, and we see Icaria putting up a lot of work there in the second game. She definitely deserves all the hype she gets.
Yeah. So that was a nice takedown for VSarius, who I believe goes up to 4-1 now, as this was the 3-1 bracket. So assuming he's able to take down his final game, we'll see him in the top 8. So look forward to seeing him again. We're moving to our backup match now, which is Manilojo versus Necrosi. Manilojo's on Rakano, and he leads 1-0. Whereas I can't pronounce that, sorry. Necrosi is on Felonstar Control.
Yeah, and this is an interesting game we jumped into. I feel like this game might be over, unfortunately, as soon as we got here, because it looks like Maniloji just pushing in here, being a little bit cheeky, making sure that he's not dead. And yeah, we come in here to see Maniloji go ahead and pick up the second game right there. Yeah. Oh, Manilojo. My apologies. Yeah, Manilojo there, picking up the second game, which they were already 1-0 in the series. So unfortunately, we brought y'all over to the end of a match. But there you go. Get to see a little Rakano beat down against some Felonstar control right there. Hope y'all enjoyed the 10 to 15 seconds of that. Just bouncing over his list, showing it off a little bit. He's got a pretty cool little list there. Actually playing the Longhorn Sergeant. I believe that was a Cyber Rage tech choice. Cyber Rage original, not an original per se, but he did second place the tournament with 4 Longhorn Sergeants and some of Navanis in his main board. So no Navanis here, unfortunately, but still cool nonetheless.
Okay. So I'm actually just looking at the standings here, and we've got some of the round 5 matches in. So I'm just going to read you off some of the names that are kind of interesting. Up at the top of the bracket, we have 2 players at 5-0 that are going to be battling it out for the 6-0 spot. And they are Mesmerizer and Tabu, both of them in their first ETS matches. Mesmerizer is just playing a Stone Scar aggro list, so nothing too out of the box there. Whereas Tabu is on Stone Scar Burn, so Stone Scar tops the table for both players. At 5-1, we just saw, or at 4-1, sorry, we just saw VSarius move up. Unearthly, who was previously 4-0, fell down to 4-1, and the 3 players that we have not yet seen at 4-1 are Mephi, Marius294, and Expapak. I'm going to guess on this one. Spapak? Spapak. We're going to call him that.
Yeah, we'll take your word for it. It was close enough. It was a good try.
So he is on another Stone Scar aggressive deck. Looks like the Queen version. So we've got at least 3 Stone Scar Burn style decks up at the top of the table. Mephi, I cannot spell, is playing Stone Scar Maulers, so another variant. There's a lot of fire-based aggressive decks, actually. I think it's almost exclusively fire-based aggressive decks. And Marius is on Armory. Yeah, so every deck that is 4-1 or better contains fire.
Well,
most of them contain shadow as well.
It's a pretty telling stat.
Yeah, the sole exception is, of course, Unearthly on Rakano, as always.
Yeah, Unearthly sticking to the tried and true Rakano, putting up good results as always, what we've come to expect from him and his Rakano lists. So that is about to do it